Welcome back to Classic Recapped. Today, I am going to explain a Korean zombie movie, All of Us Are Dead. Episode 8 of All of Us Are Dead picks up with Yoon Jae walking through the school grounds. She notices all the people who used to give her a hard time are now walking zombies. There's a faint whiff of satisfaction that comes from her walk, and she eventually starts a fire inside the offices. A big smile spreads across her face. The fire hungrily laps across papers and desks, burning everything in its wake. That is until the sprinklers turn on. Up on the roof, Cheolsu decides to keep his mouth shut and saves himself rather than the other kids. He doesn't tell the soldiers about Ching-san and the others, leaving them to their fate instead. Just as the soldiers all fly off, the kids manage to unlock the door, but it's too late. Now, in the middle of this big skirmish, Namra's strange powers manifest, saving Ching-san from the wrath of Gwynam and knocking him back down the stairs. Up on the roof, the kids decide to make a big, bold SOS signal just in case the helicopter comes back. While they set to work, the other group of kids, including Min-ji and the others, decide to follow suit and head up to the rooftop too, working out a plan to do this while avoiding the zombies. On the roof, the gang tries to make a fire until they realize that Namra actually has a lighter. There seems to be a theme of rooftops this episode, as Ji-it and Orangeburge also try to lure the zombies away, so they make it to safety. Off the roof they find themselves stuck on. Ho Cheol shows up on a minibus though and encourages them both to jump to safety. The episode then screeches to a halt. Most of the drama we see take place after this revolves around the kids sitting around for the night and waiting for daybreak. Even Ji-ik, who has had an action-packed series of sequences, ends up on a road trip. While that would ordinarily be okay, it's awkwardly placed right at the tail end of this series when a midpoint breather would have been more fitting. Anyway, downstairs, Na-yeon has been stuck in the storage room for much of the season since leaving the group. She does venture out to grab the video camera, watching the whole group as they leave their messages. Unfortunately, Gwynam soon finds her and after evilly telling her he's hungry, bites her neck. Now, it'll be interesting to see if she turns into another of these super-powered zombies, like Nam-ra or just like the infected. Up on the roof, the group all start talking about how they feel and their lives. Among them is Ching-san, who opens up and reveals that he's liked An-jo ever since he was 6. When An-jo leaves the group to get some space, Soo-hyo gives an approving nod for him to go and talk to her. An-jo, though, simply tells him to leave. That's probably just as well because Gwynam manages to climb up the outside of the roof and makes it to the rooftop. He immediately grabs An-jo, bringing Ching-san over to try and stop him. That's just what he wanted, as he slams Ching-san down to the ground and begins pushing his thumbs into Ching-san's eye. Episode 9 of All of Us Are Dead starts on the roof, with all the kids fighting off Gwynam, who has some freakish strength. Not only does he brush off woodblocks to the back of the head, he also contorts his body in such a way that he doesn't even fall to several stiff punches. Namra's strange infection kicks in again though, and using the same strength she wielded on the stairwell all those episodes ago, she throws Gwynam to his doom. Again, and just like before, he picks himself back up, one bone-crunching limb at a time. Honestly, what will it take to kill this guy? Ji-jun is kept in surveillance at the quarantine center. Seon-mu and the other officers try to discover the origin of the virus, but aren't having much luck. According to the scientist, the RNA structure changes all the time, meaning the virus appears to be sentient and changing. However, they're interrupted by news that they found a detective on the road. That is, of course, Ji-ik. He reveals the news about Hyacinth High and, more importantly, the laptop. Realizing this could hold the clues to the entire infection, the soldiers formulate a plan to bring the laptop back. On Ground Zero, Yoon Jae is saved and is there alongside Cheol-su. She's obviously not herself and looks at him with murderous intent, revealing that she wants to eat him. And unfortunately, this bit of casual murder has widespread ramifications. Back on the roof of Hyacinth High, the gang receives more visitors. It's not Gwynam this time though, but instead, that helicopter showing up on the laptop retrieval mission. The kids think they're being saved, but instead, they're surrounded by gun-toting soldiers. everyone has their temperature is taken, including Namra, who literally just told everyone she hopes to be around the mall for more campfire sessions. Thankfully, the soldiers just think she has hypothermia and gives her a blanket instead. As the soldiers start airlifting the various different kids to safety, Yoon Jae's murder causes Moo to have doubts over this plan. He realizes the virus has mutated and now there's no way of differentiating between those infected and those who aren't. So Moo gives the order to have them all shot dead. That escalated quickly. The soldier refuses to shoot them, but does apologize before being airlifted away from the survivors. With the laptop in tow, the soldiers leave with their prize while the kids are left on their own again. That's particularly bad news for Hanai and the group, who missed their chance to escape and are forced to hide. Back at base, Assemblywoman Kim and Yoo-sin come under fire for Soju escaping. I mean, the soldiers and their terrible aim is as much to blame surely. Anyway, she's interrogated, retelling her story about how Soju saved her life and how she'll always stand by the side of the civilians, especially if it means saving your own blood. With the soldiers no longer willing to help, it falls to one man and his shotgun to help. That man being Onjo's father, Soju. When a civilian asks him for help with his wife, Soju tries to do the right thing and hands over his gun and bullets. Soju heads off alone, charging through the streets to try and find his daughter, negating that struggle and entire plotline of him heading into the store to grab a gun last chapter in the process. Back at the quarantine base, Yoon Jae is held captive. Moo and the others are desperate to work out what's going on with her. The virus has definitely mutated and changed into something different, at least in her. In order to figure out who actually is infected or not, the soldiers take drastic measures. Those Hyacinth citizens are separated from the others, with the Assemblywoman and the rabble of survives given stricter quarantine rules. This includes Ji-ik and Ho-cheol too. Right on cue, lightning crackles across the sky as the heavens open and soak the town. For those on the roof of the school, they let their emotions flow, having been through quite the hellacious ordeal. In the middle of this storm, Ching-san comes up with another idea. They want to use the thunder as a way of disguising their movement. Specifically, they want to head for the mountains, getting away from the urban area completely. The plan is set into action and the group pair up too, holding hands in order to keep pace. Poor Jisoo is the odd one out, but he holds his own hand and seems to be okay with that. As they make it out the front, everything seems to be going okay. But there's a problem. As Ching-san leads his group around the school, he runs straight into his zombified mom. Episode 10 of All of Us Are Dead picks up with Ching-san entranced and wanting to save his mom. Thankfully, Jisoo thinks fast and bashes her in the head with a pipe. Ching-san loses control though and stops the other students from beating his infected mother. It's utterly mindless and it almost sends the entire plan awry. Thankfully, the kids pull Ching-san away, despite him shouting "Mom" back at her. So much for the thunder numbing the zombie senses. The zombies track Ching-san and the others and begin chasing them. As the group race away, Jun-young and the other aren't far behind. Jae-min sacrifices Na-yeon to the zombies, but thankfully Ha-rai is there with her group, and they save the girl from a tragic fate. It also allows Ching-san to be reunited with his sister too. Altogether, the group makes it into the gymnasium. The entire place is completely full of the infected, and despite thunder rumbling outside, the zombies are every bit as alert and bloodthirsty as they were before. Jun Seom is unfortunately killed for his efforts while the others all hide inside the storage cupboard for the night. One person left outside is Jae-min, who ends up infected. She calls out for her mom, but as she turns, more narration from Byung-chan confirms that this Jonas virus is ever-changing, and that means a vaccine is almost impossible to create. After recreating the virus for themselves, the scientists with Moo confirm that everything in Byung-chan's notes are correct. They're not sure they'll be able to stop the outbreak. And even worse, it's now starting to spread across to Yangdong. This also means that Moo and his superiors may well have to give up on Hyacinth completely and leave it to be completely destroyed. In doing so, this also means the Assemblyman is forced to resign. She doesn't want to give up on the town, but the party leaders want to preserve her career and give Kim a way out. Back in the storage cupboard, The two groups meet properly and exchange pleasantries by checking notes, making a ridiculous amount of noise. Great work. Anyway, all of this comes about because Jisoo actually really likes Harai and has even been calling Chungsin brother-in-law all this time. All this commotion eventually leads to a democratic vote about the next step forward. They all decide to armor up after sharing a chocolate bar, although Jisoo greedily takes more than his fair share before Woojin can have a bit. Their plan here involves layering up and then using a trolley of gym equipment to fend off the zombies and make it to the door across the other side of the gym. With the group finally ready to move out, they try to stave off the zombies. It's a pretty bad plan, especially when they end up surrounded. Slowly but surely they move the makeshift train. Elsewhere, Moo and the others are briefed by the NIS. They deduce that in 1 week the infection will spread to a lot of the neighboring towns and then eventually Seoul. When it hits the capital, this virus is going to cause an unprecedented level of damage. So the only solution they come up with is bombing the entire city of Hyacinth to stop this from spreading. One guy who has remained unaccounted for so far is Soju. Still on the move, but he's cornered at a construction site. He manages to break free as Ching-san and the rest of the group make it across to the door in the gymnasium. With the door locked and chained from the other side, Soju shows up just in time to rescue his daughter and the other kids. Episode 8, 9, and 10 end here. Thanks for watching.